ICQ Podcast episode 238, Whisper and Small Portable Antennas. Well, hello fellow amateur radio enthusiasts, and welcome to the 238th episode of the ICQ Amateur Radio Podcast, supported by our monthly and annual subscription donors. In this episode, Martin M1MRB W9 ICQ is joined by Leslie Golf 0 Charlie India Bravo, Edmund Mike 0 Mike November Golf, Martin Mike 0 Sierra Golf Lima, Chris Mike 0 Tango Charlie Hotel to discuss the latest amateur radio news. Myself, Colin M6BOY, rounds up the news in brief, and we've got two mini features in this episode. First is regarding Whisper, and the second regarding portable antennas. Well, as always, we'd like to thank our donors for keeping the podcast show advert-free, and this episode, no one-off donors, but certainly our monthly and annual subscription donors, as they helping us to pay our way and keeping the show advert-free. If you would like to help out, all you need to do is visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate, where anything you can send our way is always greatly appreciated. Well, now we join Martin, Leslie, Edmund, Martin and Chris to discuss the latest amateur radio news, including harmonisation of SEPTA novice licences and more 60-metre allocation. Hope you enjoy.
Well, hi guys, and welcome to episode 238 of the ICQ News Roundtable. Tonight I'm joined by, let's start with the gentleman sitting across the table from me, Mr. Martin Rothwell.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening for the second time.
Yeah, we got done over by Skype yesterday that didn't want to play very nicely.
Skype, Google Hangouts, nothing wanted to play with us yesterday.
It didn't, did it?
No.
But we've reformed today, and I think we're going to be okay.
Let's hope so.
Also have Mr. Edmund Spicer M0MNG.
Hello, Martin. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Edmund. And Mr. Chris Howard, M0TCH.
Hi, guys. Good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is.
Hi,
nice to be here.
And back by popular demand, we have Mr. Leslie Butterfield G0CIB.
Good evening, Martin. We had a dreadful time trying to get it. It was a Scottish curse struck again.
I think it was. And because we're a nice show and we have a clean rating, we won't run any of the voice clips that...
that were recorded last night, you mean? I think they've definitely gone, Martin.
Yeah, they've gone. But anyway, on a more sober note, the presenters and myself want to send our condolences to the people that lost loved ones in the atrocities in Manchester earlier this week. It just seems really strange that people have to blow themselves up and kill hundreds of innocent people at a pop concert. We're not a political podcast, but I just don't understand it.
No, just one guy mentally ill, and it's not right, but we offer our condolences to those affected.
Yeah, so our condolences go out to the families, and let's say in your time of need. Starting with our first news story. Ed sent this one to us. He spotted it first. Harmonisation of the CEPT novice licences throughout the world. Now, this kind of looks interesting because as things happen, a lot of us full licence holders can operate in other countries around the world. Lots of countries now have got more than one tier of licence system, and it makes sense that maybe we do let the lower class of licence operators operate in different countries if that country's aware and wanting to. And as I was saying earlier, with a CB licence, you can operate the whole of Europe anyway, throughout Europe now. So why stop amateur radio licence holders that have actually done at least a test from doing that? What do you think, Leslie?
Oh, I can see all the dinosaurs shaking their head. No, we can't have this. Look, there's a phrase in this, and it says, Veron says, because of the international character of amateur radio, these differences are undesirable. In other words, we've got to keep with the times, change it. I know it's not going to be easy trying to harmonise everything, just look at other things, but hey, I'm not going to get into that. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I agree with you.
Well, I think if you can harmonise the the privileges that you get, why not allow people to work? Obviously one of the benefits of getting a full license here in the UK is that it allows you to work abroad. And I suppose one of the things that you might want to reason to perhaps advance, but I don't see any reason why we shouldn't give access to people that have got a lower license to work abroad. Obviously they'll be working to the same restrictions that they have of other people in that country, but I don't see why they shouldn't be able to work abroad.
Yeah, I agree with you. Edmund, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, this could potentially create some rather interesting situations, because there are variations between what the novice in inverted commas license will let you do in various countries. So depending on which country you're in to start with, and depending which country you go to, you could end up with enhanced privileges or not so good privileges. For example, in France, the novice license, the F0, which hasn't been issued for a couple of years now, they stopped doling them out, that gave you access to the 2 metre band alone, no other bands at all. And yet if this comes in, presumably if you were an F0 and went 25 miles across the English Channel from Calais to Dover, you would then presumably be able to operate on HF. So you could have privileges going in both directions, not just people being restricted from the country that they start from. And the other thing that's worth mentioning, of course, is that just because you hold a foundation or an intermediate license in the UK doesn't mean that it's impossible for you to operate abroad. It just means if you're going to do it, it won't be under the CEPT agreement. But having a full license in this respect does make your life an awful lot easier. So it's a good reason to go for it, isn't it?
Certainly is.
I wonder if it's taking away, to some extent, the incentive for people to go up to the next stage of license, up to the advanced license. I know there are other incentives as well, more power and things, but...
In my case, it could well have been, because although, yes, I was very pleased to get the full license, so I could go on 60 metres, more of that later. I could apply for a notice of variation to run a special event station. I could become a repeater keeper. I could do all these extra things. For me, the main motivation was for the ability to operate abroad. And ironically, I think I've done it twice since I got the M0 in 2013. But
you've got it, and you can do it.
If I'd had the facility as an intermediate to sign F/2, I suppose I'd still be 2 Echo Zero, wouldn't I? Even though I was not in England if I was abroad. If I could have been Foxtrot/2 Echo Zero Mike Delta Oscar, as I was, would I be a full licensee today? I'm not sure I would be, actually.
Yeah, I suppose there's good and bad to it. And Ed put in his little notes to us, someone like a general class license holder in the States who now has 1.5 kilowatts comes over here and would be allowed 100 watts, How would they
He's not going to like that, is he?
No.
It depends how you define QRP.
I suppose it would be 50 watts, wouldn't it?
50 watts, that's right,
Yeah.
At the risk of getting too political, or not getting too political, I wonder how this would change for UK licences after Brexit.
Yeah, it could be.
Because technically, do we then still come under CEPT? Is it CE, not Central European, or something like that?
I assume that it's a separate organisation from the European Union, because countries well outside Europe have signed up to CEPT, haven't they?
It's the European Conference of Postal and Telecommunications.
Yeah.
I know the man who will have the answer to that, and he's on my phone contacts, and I know exactly who can answer that.
Well, maybe you can find out and then drop Martin an email, so when he does his recording afterwards, his edit afterwards, you can drop it in.
Yeah, I'll add it into the 73s, Leslie. So if you send me the details, the answer to that one, I'll add it into the 73s at the end.
Even though it's a European thing, there are 49 countries. I believe there are more than 49. In fact, looking here, Albania. Looking here, actually. So I suppose it's many, isn't it? There's no America or
Australia.
Looking at the list here, there's no non-Europe. Yeah, Australia's not on there. So no, it's not necessarily just. It looks like it is actually Europe.
I thought places like Australia and the States signed up to it.
No, well, looking at Wikipedia, which of course isn't always necessarily that accurate, but it shows that as of December 2016, there are 49 countries. And looking at this list, browsing through it quickly, they're all European countries.
Yeah, but I'm sure the States are, because when we were.
Well, okay, so it may be that they're not members of the CPT, but they may have signed up to the agreement.
The agreement, yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. Right, moving on. The next lot are a block of news stories, because we had five news stories all talking about extra frequency allocation around the world.
Yippee!
It is. It's totally exciting. Germany gets 4 meters. I think they've had it and it was taken away. It looks like they've got it back again. Mexico gets 60 meters. Poland get 60 meters and more space on 4 meters. There's a correction to license class permitted to use Uruguay's 60-meter allocation. And the last one, 4-meter band allocation to Kazakhstan for 5 years.
Wow.
So a lot going on, boys. Martin, you're sitting next to me. What do you think?
There's a lot going on. It looks like more people are getting more spectrum. That can only be good from an amateur's point of view. It's more experimentation. 4 meters in Germany, awesome. Another reason to get your horizontal aerial up and try and get some European I've never actually had a contact outside of the UK on 4 meters, so I'd like to have a go at that. Hopefully their frequency is going to align. Other things, what else have we got? Poland should join 60 meters. Well, that's good for us.
Yep,
Again, more people we can have a go at working. I don't think we're going to quite get to Kazakhstan on 4 meters.
No.
Be worth a go. And
But what about sporadic E? You can certainly get 6 meters. It's only if you've got.
I've never spoken to anybody on 6 meters that's not been a pre-scheduled thing down the road.
Haven't you?
Never,
You've
ever,
failed
ever.
miserably.
I have tried. I have failed. It's never happened.
I've had results on
I know people say it's the magic band, but I'm yet to be proved on that.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to give it a go. Kazakhstan on 4 meters, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Leslie?
I'm just giggling here. I'm looking at this. If we've got more countries being allocated 4 meters, and I have to say, I like 4 meters. It's a really good band, cheap to get on, and on a ground wave, I think it's better than 2 meters, but that's only my own personal take. Could there be more equipment available? Yes, I think there should be. And if more countries actually are allocated it, that gives more reason for the manufacturers to get some gear out for this band, especially SSB. There is a demand for good 4 meter SSB kit at a decent price.
It's a very good point. There are only a couple of manufacturers that do make 4 meters SSB, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because some of the your Icon rigs do, don't they? So I think it's becoming a bit of a more popular because they've now included it in some of the newer kit, haven't they? Yeah. But I know the things like I've forgotten now. Is it a Noble? They do a 4 meter.
I'm not sure that actually exists because I've seen a picture of it and I've never ever seen one for sale.
Okay.
Well, be interesting. Right. Yeah.
I did see a name on here, a Mr. Paul Gaskell, G0CIB, and I must say hello because I used to work with him and we got on blindingly, Paul and myself. So, hi Paul, I'm glad to see you still doing his 5 meg stuff. Really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, this hobby's certainly good, Leslie, because it keeps us in touch with our friends. Edmund, you've been very quiet. Have you ever done 4 meters?
I have done 4 meters, and I have a vertical antenna in my attic, unfortunately, rather than outside as we speak. And I'm hoping that I might be able to hear Germany via sporadic E, because although the band that they've been given temporarily until I think it's the 31st of August 2017, they can use it until, isn't it? Even though antennas in Germany have to be horizontally polarized, by the time the signal has been propagated by sporadic E, then hopefully the fact that my antenna is vertical won't actually matter too much, because when signals get propagated by sporadic E, the polarization it sort of gets a bit twisted, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the right word here, but I can't remember the proper correct scientific word, so we'll go with twisted.
It changes polarization.
That's the one, yeah. I had a look at the Deutsche Amateurradio Club, DARC.de website, and I couldn't find the information on there. But if you go to the 4-meter website in the UK, which is www.70mhz70megahertz.org, it's on the news on the front page there. So German full license holders, Class A licensees, can use 70.150 to 70.180, so just a little bit below the 70.2 SSB calling frequency, as mentioned earlier. And they're limited to, I think it's 15 watts. Let's have a look. 25. It's gone up since last time I looked. 25 watts it says here, so hopefully that'll be good. I'll be using my ICOM IC7100, which can do 4 meters SSB, and whoever it was who said about 4 meters propagating well by ground wave, yes, absolutely. I think you need a better antenna to get a signal going in the first place on 4 meters than you do on 2 meters. On 2 meters, you can get away with a very short, inefficient whip antenna on top of your car, for example. On 4 meters, you would need something a lot better, something, that's a quarter of a wavelength long without loading in it or that kind of thing. But if you once get a signal going, then yes, I concur, it does seem to travel further by ground wave and get to places that 2 meters doesn't seem to get quite as well.
Well, Edmund, if you need help putting up a large 4 meter antenna on the side of your house, there's a gentleman sitting to my left here who did turn up at my house with a very, very large SDS drill. I'm sure if you ask him nicely, he'd be only too willing to drill through several of your walls in one go just to mount it for you.
Well, but bearing in mind that I would quite like my wife and my neighbours to carry on liking me, I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here looking at a 3-element 6 meter beam in my garden, which I keep meaning to put up on a mast at any moment and haven't got round to yet. I expect the sporadic season will be over by the time.
You put a couple of extra elements on it, that'll work for 4.
Okay. I haven't heard an awful lot on 6 meters so far this sporadic season, because I have got an 18 megahertz 17 meter inverted V dipole.
Yeah.
And the third wavelength of that, the third half wavelength, is roughly 54 megahertz-ish. So for a receiving antenna on 6 meters, it's all right. So what I've been doing is listening through that for any signs of life on 6 meters, and I've yet to hear any. But the moment I do, I'll be out in the garden like a shot to get the 3-element beam up in the air.
Yeah, sounds good to me, Edmund. Sounds good to me. I think that would be a good one. Now, you talk about mobile whips. I remember a long time ago, I built a mobile whip as just a quarter wave, because if you think 4 meters, a quarter of 4 meters is 1 meter, less about 5% because of the velocity factor. So you've got a bit of steel just under a metre long. Mine was soldered into a PL259, and then to stop it all shorting out and make it more rigidly, I run some araldite or some epoxy glue in, and that works very, very well. It might only be a quarter wave, but quarter wave works really well on top of the car. And
so I've got a quarter wave on the back of my car for 4 meters. I mean, it's on the back left-hand corner of my car.
Yeah.
So it's directional, but works amazingly well. I mean, okay, I'm using PMR kit. It's 25 watts, but for what it is, it's incredible range you get on it.
Yeah, I was doing 50, 60 miles regularly from the car without a repeater. So.
And if you get yourself up high, I haven't done this very often, admittedly, but if you park up on high ground And even if you've only got 5 watts out of a handheld, because Wushan did make a 4-meter handheld.
They did.
I don't know if it's still in production. I think from memory it was
Certainly
the KG 699, 679, something like that.
699, I think.
That's the one.
I've got one right in front of me.
I've got one upstairs, and that will produce 5 watts out of a full battery. And there have been a few times that I've parked up high, not many, admittedly, but on every occasion when I've put a call out on 70.450, and somebody has come back to me with a strong signal, I've thought to myself, oh, right, okay, they're really strong. They're only going to be just down the road, maybe 2, 3, 4 miles away, something like that. And every time that has happened, when they've told me where their QTH is, and it turns out that it's 10, 15, 20, 30 miles away, I'm always really surprised. And that's been really noticeable on that band, more so than on 2 meters.
But they're always so happy to talk to you on there. I mean, every time I put a call out on 4, I can pretty much guarantee it'll be answered. And because it's it's quiet, there's a lot of activity on there, but because it's quiet by comparison to perhaps 2 meters and 70 sems, whenever you put a call out, people are always delighted to speak to you, and they'll go out of their way, even if they can't really stop and talk. They'll at least come back to you and say, hi, yeah, you're working, there's no problem at all, but nice to hear some activity. So it's always a really, really nice band to play with.
Yeah, I can't agree more, Martin. I can't agree more. You always get good quality contacts on 4.
Definitely. And they say it's a gentleman's band because people on there would rather have a nice long rag chew, probably even more so than you would on 2 or 70, I think.
Yeah. So all in all, form lots of activity, lots of new band allocations around the world.
All good stuff.
All good stuff.
Definitely.
For starting for the summer. So summer in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, I should say. Right, moving on. I had to look up what one of these was.
So did I.
But and the headlines is a Geoparks Communications Weekend. A geopark is a geological park, so it's where people go and look at rocks and I assume fossils and things like that. But over there in Ireland, the Southeastern Amateur Radio Group will be operating a special event station EI2GEO for this Geoparks weekend that's coming up shortly. It's on the weekend of the 3rd and 4th of June, so you've got time to get ready for this one. And I believe there are lots of other stations that will be on throughout Europe and possibly the world on this one. Edmund, you want to go first on this one?
Yes, okay. Well, I'm particularly after the one in England, Golf Bravo 6, Golf Echo Oscar, which is going to be located once again this year at Kent's Cavern in South Devon in the English Riviera. And that's very close to my heart because in the 1990s, I used to go on holiday down to that part of the world, the Brixham, Paynton, Torquay area, the English Riviera in South Devon. And we used to visit Kent's Cavern and go down in the caves virtually every year at one point. So I've got a very soft spot for that, and I have worked them from there before. So keep an ear out for the, I think it's the Torbay Amateur Radio Society. Greetings to everybody in that group as well. Who'll be putting the station on. And, well, I love special event stations, all and any special event station. So obviously I'm going to be positive about this news story, aren't I?
You are.
Big thumbs up from me as well.
Yeah? Are you going to get involved with this, Leslie?
I don't know. It depends how my shift work goes. I work on the railways and it's should we say slightly bonkers sometimes.
All right.
Do you work on a train? Could you put a mag mount on the train? They might just pull it off before you go into a tunnel.
Do these mag mounts go off at 125 mile an hour?
We come round with a drill. We could drill over the snail mount through the roof.
No, if my boss hears this, he go nuts. No, I couldn't possibly dream of doing that.
No, you couldn't. No, we're winding you up.
The HF could use the track as some kind of antenna.
Nice ground plane.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Oh dear, we're being naughty to you, Leslie.
I can see the health and safety guys jumping up and down even as we
Oh,
speak.
come on, Leslie. Safety is our number 2 priority.
And what would be the proper letters to put after your call sign? Would you be /mobile or /something else?
You'd be mobile.
/PT, public transport?
You'd be mobile, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
But, yeah, no problems on that one. Martin, over to you on that one.
Well, I like the fact because they say, to quote in here, as the Geopark event is not a contest, operation tends to be relaxed with ample time and an ideal location to experiment with antennas and equipment. So it's an all-round win. You've got the chance to go and talk to people on the radio. You can have a nice little QSO with people, and you can have a play with antennas and your toys to your heart's content. I really like this. I'd like to have a listen.
You also missed out the barbecue and refreshments later on in the evening. That sounds all good to me.
They are certain kind of refreshments, Leslie, that we might be dunking our pork pies into.
I'm a target tonight, aren't I?
Oh, he's on form tonight, Leslie.
I'm very much with you on that, though, Leslie.
Yeah.
Bring the cider.
Yeah, Chris, you got anything to comment on this one?
Not massively more to add, really. I mean, I also, like Edmund, I like to work at a special event station. So yeah, I might listen out for them and try to work them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be fun, and if nothing else, we now know what a Geopark is, and at least we've got a few more special event stations on that weekend that we can work and have a bit of fun. So that's what the hobby's all about. Moving on, the WIA, that's the Wireless Institute of Australia, are out trialling online examinations. Now, we kicked this one around in the UK a little while ago. With a country the size of Australia, I'd say it was absolutely massive. But it's one of those things we're not 100% sure whether this is just a trial or whether they're actually going to do it. But whatever happens at some point in time, I think that examinations worldwide will go along this route. Martin, you're sitting quiet in front of me. Go for it.
Well, they say it's a proof of concept exercise, don't they? So this is a trial, not a full exam. So people, I'm guessing, can take their tests online and see if they're likely to pass before going to an exam centre. We talked about doing this before, as I say, in the UK. Still not sold on the idea because you can't prove it's the person doing the exam that is actually sitting it, but have the demand there and it helps somebody else get on the air. Fantastic. You mentioned big distances. I mean, we all know Australia is huge, but when you put it into concept of you can fly from one end of this country or one end of the UK to the other, England to Scotland, and it takes 50 minutes to an hour, or you can fly across Australia and it takes 4.5 hours. You get some kind of concept as to how big the place is. So yeah, if it helps other people get their license, then fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
And Australia, obviously, they probably would like access to the amateur airwaves more, purely and simply because I'm guessing their phone coverage doesn't work out in the sticks. So the guys may want some kind of radio coverage out there.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think?
Well, yeah, sort of similar. So I guess when they're talking about online exams, I know there's also been a similar trial here in the UK about online exams, but I think it might be subtly different. So online can mean lots of different things. I think it means, in this case, as in you're sat at home on your computer, on the internet, taking an exam. I think the UK version of that is you're sat in a learning centre, a training centre, taking an exam on a computer. And also they're quite different things. So I think what you were saying, Martin, obviously in Australia, it's a massive country, and maybe trying to get to an exam centre might be quite difficult. So maybe doing it on the internet is a good idea. Though there is that challenge, however, that you need to make sure that the person isn't, So when we do exams in the UK today, as in paper exams, we have to go through some quite rigorous checking. We check 2 forms of ID, photo ID, to make sure the person is who they say they are. It's not somebody else taking it on their behalf. They need to somehow build that into the online system, I would suggest, so that there's no cheating goes on. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. And if they can find a way of making it work, then it might make it easier for people to take the exams, as in more convenient, without having to go and travel a long way, and therefore it might bring more people into the hobby.
Yeah.
I'm going to sort of look at it from a more positive view, I think. a trials there to sort of find out what we don't know. What are the problems occurring? How does this actually pan out in practice? And you know what? I'm absolutely certain there are going to be difficulties, but long term, I'm sure these can be ironed out, and it's the way to go. And if you just look at the way education establishments are going, online training courses, I'm pretty certain long term this is the way it's going to go.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've got to move with the times, and lots of things are moving. This is just another one of those things. Edmund, what do you think? Edmund?
I think I would have loved to have had this facility available about 6 or 7 years ago, because I passed my foundation license in 2009, intermediate in 2010, and left to my own devices, I would have probably passed the full license in 2011. But the only reason I didn't actually do it until 2013 was because nobody local to me was running a course. My local radio club kept on saying, yes, we'll run a full license course at any minute, and then for various reasons that I won't go into here, that moment never arrived. So yes, it would help perhaps people, new people come into the hobby if it's easier for them to get started, but it also might help encourage existing licensees to progress up the ladder to the next level of license. Only slight concern potentially is they need to make sure they find a watertight way of making sure that the person sitting the exam genuinely is that person and not somebody else who they've paid to sit in front of the keyboard in their place.
Yeah, but I think that's something that throughout time there's always been people that have tried to beat the system and cheat, and I know of people that aren't full license holders that have got licenses, and I suspect a few others. But predominantly the system is correct, and we just put the checks in place, and all you can really do is bolt the door after the horse has gone every time. So when somebody finds a loophole, you fill that loophole. So we'll try and think of as many loopholes that we need to fix, and then as people find them, you bolt them. And that's why we have to have photo ID now in the UK before you're allowed to sit in the exams. So that's just a matter of life. But there you go. Moving on, our last news story. The UK Frequency Allocation, Ofcom, issued a nice website, or link to a website showing all of the frequency allocation in the UK and who was there and what it's used for. So, Edmund, you've been last a number of times. Would you like to go first on this one?
Well, it's not a document I would suggest that you try reading in full for a bit of light bedtime reading. But yes, it's interesting from what I've seen of it. But out of all the presenters who are on this evening, I think I've probably looked at it in less detail than some other people. So I'll pass it around to somebody else who can tell us a bit more about it, if that's all right.
Yeah, no problems. Martin, you were playing with this.
I was playing with this earlier. I loved it. It's very colourful, this website. So, dear listener, do go and have a look at this. It's very interesting. It takes a minute to work out how it's actually laid out, but it does give you an indication of what's in use and where. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not saying Joe Blogg's taxi firm is on 169 point whatever, but it does say this part of the spectrum is allocated to business radios, this part is allocated to aviation, this part to broadcast, etc. So it's interesting to see what's there. It did surprise me, actually, how much spectrum throughout the whole radio spectrum is allocated to the military. Yeah. That surprised me, and that the whole of the 300 meg band, because it's one of these parts of the band, I always wondered what's there. And I had a look and it just said military. Interesting. My only cheeky comment on that is that being that the mobile phone operators pay millions and millions for 20 or 30 megahertz worth of bandwidth to put their phone company in there, how much are the military paying for this? Probably nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, probably nothing, Mark.
But that's a hell of a lot of bandwidth. I'm curious as to what they do with it now, if nothing else.
Well, they're the prime user in the UK, aren't they? So, in the majority of places...
So they're probably not using anything because they're the prime user of 77s, and I don't know if I've ever heard anyone on there.
No. But if I was asked to move, I would.
Yes.
Very
definitely.
quickly.
Sorry, sir.
I don't want an exorcist coming my way. Okay. Edmund, so you looked at this one? Oh, sorry, I asked you that, didn't I?
You've asked me already, and
Sorry.
the only military I've ever heard on 77s are cadets on about 435
Right.
point something, and that was only once a long time ago. So
Right.
I haven't heard them, but of course that doesn't mean they aren't there, does it?
I think they snatched some of the frequencies back temporarily during the Olympics, but I'm not sure that was military. I think that was just Ofcom saying we need some frequencies and budget out the way for a bit.
Well, I programmed up some radios that went up north a little while ago, and they were in the 77s band, but they were for the air cadets, and the air cadets have got set frequencies, so that was legit. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really interesting website. You can see just how vast the amount of spectrum there actually is. And then, of course, you can see how, I suppose, in a very, very colourful way, just how much of it is given over to the various different users. It's funny to mention the military. I'm guessing the reason they've got so much is it's probably there just in case. I guess it may be that as we've seen, most of us have never heard any military ever on any of the bands that we operate on, but you never know when they might need to. So I'm guessing it's there as a kind of, they don't want to give it away because you never know when it might be required in some emergency.
Yeah. The other thing is, I suppose, is that we don't always listen necessarily, or we might not be listening on the same mode as they're transmitting on. So if, for argument's sake, if we were in FM, for argument's sake, and they were running some other signal, and they're running down in the noise, you probably would never hear them.
Good point.
So, Leslie, what's your thoughts?
I thought it was an interesting website. I didn't manage to look in depth because I ran out of time last night trying to sort everything out that was going sort of totally pear-shaped. But I do need to have a look at it. Yeah, there was a key. The key thing I didn't quite grasp, that wasn't quite clear. But I need to look at it and spend a lot more time on it, I think, to take the full import of it.
Well, if you're a UK amateur or a visiting amateur to the UK shores, this might be a very good website to have a look at, and we'll put it in the show notes. Unfortunately, if you're colourblind, you're going to be a little bit screwed.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because it is very colourful, but as I say, an interesting website nonetheless. Well, that completes the news roundup table. Guys, I'm going to pass it around the table quickly, find out what you've been up to. So go on, Leslie, what have you been up to amateur radio-wise?
Oh! Well, people are going to throw their arms up in horror of what I've been doing. I've been sorting out my gear, as some of you know. Some of it has been repaired. I actually managed to make a good ICOM 2E out of two ICOM 2Es. I sort of dismantled the parts and thought, right, that bit's broken. I made a good one out of two. Some of the gear has gone on eBay and some of it has gone straight in the bin. I had a sort out and I thought, right, I'm not using that anymore. That's junk. That's my task, and that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, well, it's a very worthwhile thing. Sometimes we have to have a clear out to get some good stuff back on and working. Edmund, what have you been up to amateur radio-wise since the last one?
Well, I've been running Whisper quite a lot, and particularly on 20 metres, which is a band that normally I don't go anywhere near for some reason or other. And despite the fact that the comments, conditions on HF aren't particularly good at the moment at this stage in the sunspot cycle, my 200 milliwatt signals have been picked up pretty much all over Europe, on the east coast of America, and well across into Russia. So it looks like the band openings are there, but it's more a case of being in the right place at the right time than would be the case at the top of the sunspot cycle. Interestingly, on 20 metres during the day, I will normally hear Italy, Russia, stations from the further flung corners of Europe. In the last few days, and we're recording this on Wednesday the 25th, aren't we? 25th of May. In the last few days, I've been being picked up by stations in England. So the skip on 20 metres on occasions has gone quite short. And what I've often found in the past is that when stations on 20 metres from a lot nearer in suddenly become audible, and the stations that I would normally expect to hear drop out, that's normally an indication that the higher frequency bands are open. So I haven't always been here to, I've been, not be able to sit in front of the radio, haven't always been here to go on the air, but that's a positive indication perhaps that if I had been here to go on the radio straight away, I might have been able to work some DX on the higher bands. So that's encouraging, isn't it?
That's always encouraging. Always.
Maybe. And of course, sporadic E-season we're going into as well, aren't we? So on all the bands, but particularly 14 megahertz upwards, be good for listening to sporadic E. Took part in Mills on the Air from the local windmill, and that was a hard slog, again, because the skip distance was quite long on 40 metres at times. And the QSB was really deep and really rapid. At our windmill at High Salvington, we found that somebody could call us and be 5 and 9, and 60 seconds later, if that, they had disappeared completely. So that wasn't quite so good. But we did go on VHF and UHF, and I took my my portable 70 SEMS station with me, which is a homebrew Yagi on top of a camera tripod, and worked about a dozen people across the south of England on 70 SEMS. So that was good. And I must say hello to everybody in the GB3IW, the Isle of Wight repeater group, who keep that device on the air and made all those QSOs possible. So that's what I've been up to mainly. Can I just mention one other thing? Without, I don't want to hog it too much and turn this into too much of a monologue. We've mentioned 60 metres this evening, and we've also mentioned the cadets. Bringing those two things together, Exercise Blue Ham 2, which took place a couple of months back. I think we discussed that on the podcast as well, didn't we?
We did.
We did. On the website, which is www.alphacharlie.org.uk, it said at the time, and still says now, incidentally, that if you work over 25, 50 or 75 Alpha Charlie stations, then the organisers would send you a certificate by email as long as your contact details were reasonably visible on qrz.com. I did work enough stations, and I thought, oh, that's good. That means I'll automatically get a nice little certificate by email after a while. So I waited and I waited and I waited, and nothing happened. And I'm not saying that in a moaning or complaining way. Please don't get me wrong. But anyway, a week or two back, the latest edition of the 5 megahertz newsletter came out. There's a link to that on the RSGB website. So if you go to your favourite search engine and type in 5 megahertz newsletter RSGB, you ought to be able to find the link. And there's an article in the latest edition of the 5 megahertz newsletter that said that did a review of Exercise Blue Ham 2, and it said if you worked over 10 stations, never mind 25, 50 or 75, if you worked over 10 stations, you can get a certificate if you send an email to the address that they specify in the 5 megahertz newsletter and ask for one. So I did that very thing, and exceptionally quickly, in a matter of a couple of days, I got a certificate emailed to me. So the reason I'm saying all of this isn't just to make myself sound or look good for working a certain number of cadet stations. If you are one of the amateurs out there who took part in Exercise Blue Ham 2, and if, like me, you were waiting patiently for a certificate to turn up all by itself, then please be aware that it does look like you might actually have to send an email. It won't just arrive in your inbox automatically, and the email address to send your request or your information to appears on, I don't know what page it is, but it's in the latest edition of the 5 megahertz newsletter. Okay?
That's good news, yeah. And that's a good bit of advice for people, mate. No problems at all. That's a good one. Martin, you're sitting patiently opposite me. What have you been up to radio-wise?
In the last 2 weeks, probably not as much as you would think. As always, I'm a huge D-Star fan. I've been playing with D-Star quite a lot on 1C. Now that we got Fusion properly working on the repeater, quite a lot of contacts on Fusion, so that's nice. I've got to say thank you to John, I think 2E0EZK. I apologise, John, if I've got your call sign wrong. He's a member of the Well and Green Repeater Club or Repeater Committee, and he spent some time with me going through the settings, comparing it to what his repeater set up like, to make sure that everything here is working okay. We've got that connected now to CQ UK. So I've been playing with that quite a lot. And also thinking about this sporadic E-season that everyone's talking about, I thought I'd better get some kind of horizontal element set up for 4 metres and 6 metres. So I've got the old Halos out of the garage, been attaching some coax to them and testing those out before I think about climbing up the side of the house and attaching them to the side of that pole that you've very kindly drilled holes in my wall for. So, got that. Haven't set them up yet, but they are there. They're ready to go, and I've got to make another hole or two in the window frame here. So, that's what I've been doing in the last couple of weeks.
I can see a divorce.
No,
she's all right with that.
No. Emma didn't snarl at me when I came round tonight, so it's okay.
Only because you didn't walk in with a drill. he walked in today with a cup of coffee. He's like, oh, he's okay.
Hey, that's almost as bad as a drill in my case, isn't it? But
only in certain organisations, but let's not go there.
Okay. Chris, what have you been up to?
Well, compared to everybody else, not a huge amount really. I've done a little bit of operating HF. And Martin, I know I don't want to steal your thunder. I know I popped out the other weekend, and I know we got your new radio, so I'll let you, tell everyone about that. No, I'm going to let you tell about that, Martin. So I know we had a little play with that around at my house. Not that Carol knows. And that's probably been about it for me operating. What I've really must do. I'm looking over. I'm in the shack now. I'm looking over to my right on my shelf, and I can see it's always talk of 4 meters, and I do have a 4 meter FM radio. I did actually buy a 4 meter dipole at the Kempton Rally about 2 years ago, and to my shame, it's still sat on the shelf in its bag. So I'm thinking I might need to actually maybe put it on the air. So I think that might be next couple of weeks. I might have to find somewhere for that to go and finally get 4 meters here in the shack rather than just mobile. So quite a short one from me. Haven't done a huge amount. But Martin, you can tell us at the end what you bought. However, I've got to say I was quite impressed with it.
Right. Well, he was. I will do that. And I wasn't going to make a big thing of it, but I decided to go from being a QRP operator to seeing as the conditions are pretty poor at the moment to go QRO. And
please tell me it's an expert linear.
No,
4 kilowatts.
No, it's not. It's not an expert of 4 kilowatts. No, basically, my FT707 has become extremely hit and miss whether it's going to fire up and behave itself. So I decided I needed something reliable that I could run 100 watts if need be, and turn the power down, obviously, if I wanted to. And I looked round and I wanted something a bit bigger than a FT857 because the screen on it is too small for my eyes. I'd have to wear glasses and big digits and that sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with the radio. It's a great radio. It's just, for me, it's too fiddly. So I had a look around and I said to the boys, Martin and both Edmund, I said, I was thinking of a FT 450D, and they both said, I had one of those. They were brilliant. And I mentioned a couple of people at the club, and they're brilliant radios. Yeah. So I looked the spec up, and I couldn't find anything wrong with it. And they were going for, they're supposedly a budget radio, and they were going for a budget price. They dropped by 50 quid as well this last month. So my guess is they're probably becoming end of life. Maybe not. So I'm not panicking anybody to rush out and buy one. But I went and bought one. And we took it back to
God,
Chris's.
the moths came out of the wallet then. Yeah.
Oh, they did. Well, when I say I bought one, my missus and my daughter decided I ought to have one, and they kind of bought it for me. And Chris and I went over to the Emporium and picked it up, and we disappeared back to Chris's place, stuck it on his aerial because he's got a decent aerial at home, and pretty much I think everything we heard, we worked, didn't we, Chris?
Yeah, pretty much. And I've got to say, because we both had a little play with it, we had a look through the manual, and it actually does an awful lot. It's got DSP, it lets you sort of alter the bandwidth, it's got a built-in voice keyer, which I was quite surprised to see, actually, because that was an option on my radio, which cost quite a bit more. And actually, it's quite decent for the size of it and for the price. You get an awful lot for your money. So I was quite surprised at just how good it was.
Yeah. So I think Yaesu sell them as kind of either beginner radios or holiday, take on holiday type radios. But in fairness, it's a lovely little radio. It does what it says on the tin. It does a hell of a lot for the money. And quite honestly, yeah, okay. I'm sure Chris's bigger radio would do things slightly better. But for what we did, everything we heard, we worked. And bearing in mind, this was us being very naughty. We just took the radio straight out the box and didn't set up the microphone gain and all those sort of bits and pieces. We just went for it. So it's quite nice when you can just sort of take it straight out the box and go for it, I think.
They really need to come out with some kind of documentation, really, to supply with it that tells you how to set it all up. But I've never seen this with any radio,
No.
There's this paper thing that has a picture of the radio on it. Instructions. I don't know
It's
what
words, isn't it?
Well, I'm not going to read that. Doesn't light up. Doesn't. What do I want to do? Play with that for? I want to play the radio.
Yeah, but no, it's a good little device. Good little device. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've worked a few stations from home. I had a very poor antenna up. Well, it was actually a ATAS on a tripod in the back garden, and running 50 watts, and it still worked right into Eastern Europe. So from South London. So I was quite impressed. I'm actually very impressed with the little radio. It pretty much does what it says on the tin. So
sounds really good, Martin.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes these things get overlooked. And the other thing that mine didn't say is that he mentioned lots of fusion, but having the GB3XP is now connected via WireX. It means when I come home in the morning, because I'm working early hours of the morning and come home around about breakfast time in the UK, and where I used to find at 9 o'clock in the morning, the repeater would be totally dead, nobody on. Now it's connected to WireX. It's on. There's working people all over the UK now. And the only thing is the locals are saying that, what's this horrible noise coming through GB3XP all the time? But
if they enabled CTCSS on their radio, then they wouldn't have that problem.
Well, that's what I told a few of them. But we are certainly getting a lot more traffic through GB3XP. And anybody who has a Fusion radio and wants to connect into the UK...
It's CQ UK. CQ-UK. I can tell you the room name if I log onto the box.
But it's certainly worth doing because, I'm finding people on there all the time. And as I say, I think it's certainly given the repeater certainly a new lease of life.
27793 if people want to connect to it. It's CQ-UK 27793. But of course, if you are in London and you want to connect to it, you can, of course, disconnect from CQ UK. You can connect it to any other talk group room that you like. And if you don't use it for about 20 minutes, I think it automatically reconnects to CQ UK. And of course, if you do want to connect to CQ UK and you haven't got the Fusion radio, or you're not in the range of a Fusion radio, currently on the Phoenix network, I know, me mentioning DMR, I know, I think it's 4409.
Yeah.
If you understand how to connect to that, and I haven't got a clue, but 4409 also, I believe, links to CQ UK, so you can listen to the Fusion traffic going through there as well, and you will come out of GB3XP.
Yeah, there's a lot of DMR stuff. People connecting through the DMR gateway to Fusion at the moment. So certainly hearing a lot of that. So that's what we've all been up to.
All good stuff.
Yeah, all good stuff. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I'd like to thank yourself, Leslie, G0CIB.
Thanks, Martin. It's been a blast. But last night was, we pulled our hair out tonight, but we got the show done today, which is great.
We certainly did. And Mr. Edmund Spicer M0MNG.
Yeah, 73 everybody, and hope to work you all on 60 or 4 metres.
Yeah, thanks, Edmund. And Mr. Chris Howard M0TCH.
Yeah, cheers, guys. It's been great as usual.
Yeah, and I'm going to thank Mr. Martin Rothwell especially because we had major problems recording, and I popped round to Martin's home studio, which is better than mine. I hate him for it. He's better than mine, but yeah, nice one, Martin. I got invited here.
You are very well. I even offered you food as well tonight, but you're very welcome anytime, mate.
Yeah, so thanks very much for hosting it and recording it for us tonight.
No worries. Hang on, recording. You didn't mention that.
Yeah.
No.
Has anyone pressed play and record?
That was
Must do
Chris.
that.
You had one job.
Oh, again.
We'll see you tomorrow then, Martin.
Yeah,
Bye.
yeah, 73 all.
Cheers, guys.
7-3.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.icqpodcast.com.
And now it's time to have a look in the news in brief with me, Colin M6BOY. And we start with news in the Republic of Korea, where the Air Force Academy are submitting a coordination request to the IARU in relation to the K2 satellite, which is a 3U CubeSat mission. The primary mission is to demonstrate satellite imagery and transfer, and also to test voice repeating capabilities. They're hoping to add a onboard camera and an onboard voice repeater to transceive at 3.96 kilohertz on the BSPK AX25 downlink for data and telemetry, and planning a 2 megabit QPSK downlink on the S-band as well. The launch is planned for a 500 to 600 kilometer SSO orbit sometime around about 2018. So certainly something of interest for our satellite listeners. Maybe something for you to listen out that this might be transmitting there sometime later in 2018. Ofcom have announced that Radio Caroline has been awarded a AM licence, providing a new service covering Suffolk and Essex in the UK. It's one of 5 licences to be announced for community radio stations using the medium wave service. Licences were also awarded to Arc AM in Glasgow, Caroline Wellbeing Radio in West Leicestershire, and also going to Radio Nine Springs in Yeovil, covering the South Somerset district, and Radio Shearer in Leicester. Community radio licenses are given to not-for-profit operations focused on delivering specific local benefits in particular to local area or community interests. But certainly the issue for Radio Caroline, which has a long history of broadcasting once obviously as a pirate radio station in the North Sea between the UK and the rest of Europe, will certainly be the one that will heighten some interest. So we've put some links to the announcement from Ofcom on the ICQpodcast.com website, and certainly check those out and see if they're of use to you. A new website for you to check out, guys, and it's an experimental website that's been set up to provide information in real time in relation to the ban conditions, aiming for CWQRPers, QRPEs, and just general CWSSB contesters that are interested in increasing their scores. And so certainly lots of information regarding band openings and what's best plans to work for certain competitions. But it can also be used well for amateurs using the bands for various nets and casual QSOs as well. The information supplied is not based on any software predictions or any kind of satellite-based readings. It is a information-based service based upon ionosphere sounding method called HF ionosphere interferometry, which operates very similar to POSAR systems used by NASA. So we put a link to this new website on the ICQ Podcast webpage, and guys, check this out, and hopefully it might be of use to you. And finally, listener Tim Ward has asked us to promote a foundation course that's happening in Lowestoft in Suffolk in the UK. The Lowestoft District and Pi Amateur Radio Club will be running a foundation course for obviously the amateur ham radio hobby beginning in July 2017. The course will be held on Saturdays, covering about a 4-hour session for about a 4 to 5 week period. So the best way to get in contact with the club is by going to our website, icqpodcast.com. We'll have the links there for the secretary and also for the club in general, and you can get in touch and get yourself on that course. Well, now we head over to our features episode. 2 features, one in relation to Whisper by Ed Durrant DD5 Lima Papa. And the second feature is a feature regarding small antennas, which is a feature supplied to us by Bill Barnes November 3 Juliet India X-Ray. So guys, hope you enjoy, and as I say, let us know your feedback. Thanks a lot.
And now what you've all been waiting for, this episode's feature from the ICQ podcast. Hi guys, Martin M1MRB W9ICQ here. For this episode, the feature is actually 2 features. We've had 2 mini features come in, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them as much as I did when I listened to them. Our first mini feature is by Ed Durrant DD5LP, and he's talking about his experiences on Whisper and some of the things you can do with it. And then following on from that, Bill Barnes N3JIX, he's done us a feature on small portable antennas, and in particular a half-wave antenna. So sounds very interesting, and I've certainly used a very similar device there, William. So guys, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this.
Hi, this is Ed, DD5LP. I mentioned on a previous ICQ podcast news roundtable that I have started to look into the Whisper mode and how its network of stations can be used to see how antennas are performing. As I haven't seen much on this on the web or on amateur radio podcasts, I decided to do a short piece for Martin to include as a mini feature if he wanted to. I do not go into detail in this piece, as a lot of the setup is hardware dependent, and there are plenty of instructions both within the JTDX software which I use and on the internet, especially YouTube, telling you how to set up your PC and rig to work together on digital transmission modes. So this short feature is going to stay at a fairly high level. WSPR, pronounced Whisper, stands for Weak Signal Propagation Reporting and consists of a network of thousands of automatic beacon transceivers around the world that feed data back to a central database. A good tip to see what is happening with HF propagation has always been to check the WhisperNet website map at whispernet.org. That's WSPRNET.org. By selecting the band you're interested in and then pressing the Update button, you will see visually, in real time, what signals are being sent from low-power Whisper beacon stations around the world. This is a quick and easy way to see, for example, whether a contact between Germany and South Africa on 40 metres might be possible at the moment. If there are a lot of lines drawn between the 2 locations you're interested in, there's a good chance that you'll be able to make a contact. As long as it's not in the middle of the night and no one's there to answer, of course. Another interesting option using the map is if you find a Whisper station near to your location, note down its call sign and filter the map on that call sign. You will see where that station's signals are first being heard by other Whisper stations, and this will give you an idea of the current skip distance, otherwise referred to as whether the band is long or short. If you're looking to make a more local contact, you need the band to be short, so that the signals hitting the ionosphere come back closer to you. If a nearby Whisper station is being heard by other stations on, for example, 40 metres, 600 kilometres away, then you will have a chance of working stations that are at least 600 kilometres away from you. If you're looking for DX and the same local whisper station is only being heard 2,000 kilometres away, then you have a better chance of long-distance contacts, as the first bounce of your signal is going to be about 2,000 kilometres away as well. Hence, you'll need less bounces to reach the DX destination if propagation is good enough. These are great features that you can use to give you an idea of how conditions are at the moment, rather than relying on predictions made days or weeks earlier. Of course, the accuracy depends on how good the stations at each end are. If both stations have fantastic antenna farms and the station transmitting is using high power, a path will be there that with your limited antenna and low power, you will not manage. This brings me on to the next option. Do it yourself. Why not run a whisper station yourself and have it report into the WhisperNet system? Then you can see how well your station, rig and antenna is performing, how far it is getting, what it can hear, where is the closest station you'll be able to have a chance to work on the band, in what direction is your antenna working well, and which directions are not so good. At first, I thought I would need to buy or build my own mini whisper transmitter and receiver, and indeed, if I wanted to leave this running for a long time, that's probably a good idea. But for the short-term tests I want to do, I can use my normal rig and my Windows PC. With the advent of digital modes and computer interfaces, either to connect to a rig or in most modern rigs built inside the rig, you already have most of the components you will need for a whisper station. If you're already using a digital mode from your PC such as PSK31, JT65, RTTY, SlowScan TV or FreeDV, this will be a no-brainer for you. If you haven't interfaced your rig to your PC yet, there will be a learning curve to get everything just right, but once you have achieved it for one digital mode, adding other modes becomes easier. Each rig can be different, so seek help on the internet for how to interface your rig to your PC. Most commonly, one interfaces to a Windows PC, but Linux and Mac PCs can be used also. If you have a USB port on your rig, all you will need is a USB printer cable and the correct drivers. If you have no USB port, there will need to be extra hardware, possibly built into a cable or as a separate box, to transfer the audio and the rig control command information so that the program is able to change frequency and switch from receive to transmit. Most software is written for Windows, but again, if you have a Linux or Mac PC, search and you will usually find an alternative package. Some software is available for all platforms. I was looking at JT65 software when I came across JTDX software, which is especially easy to use and targeted at HF-DX work rather than VHF or EME usage. This software can also run as a whisper station, receiving, decoding and reporting received signals to the WhisperNet system, as well as transmitting your signal out for others to receive. Search for JTDX on the internet and you will find there are several locations. I went to the author LT3BG's QRZ.LT page, where there is very good documentation on how to install and operate the software. This program is available compiled for Windows or Linux, and the source code is also provided in case you are able to create a version for another PC platform, such as an Apple Mac. Both the JT and Whisper modes supported by this program need good time reference. So, rather than relying on your PC's clock, it's better to install a program to talk to an internet-based time standard. The software suggested for Windows, which I installed, is called NetTime, and is available via a link in the JTDX documentation pages. To be able to support many rigs, the JTDX software includes hamlib drivers. If you have a new rig that is not yet supported by hamlib, then select an alternative similar model. Details how to do this can be found on the internet. When I got my system working, I first started off at a very low power, probably about 100 milliwatts, but despite that I was received on 20 meters and 40 meters around Europe and into Russia. It's very interesting to see where the signal is being received and at what signal strength. As I have two HF antennas here, a 40 meter sky loop and an end-fed random wire, I can also compare to see which of these work best in which direction on which band. The operation of the free JTDX software allows you to easily switch to the WSPR standard frequency on each of the amateur bands and set what power level you wish to use. The documentation is well written, and I recommend you print it out and then take it somewhere quiet and read through it. My report would be incomplete if I were not to say there is a commercial product from Sotabeams, which is a small WSPR transmitter. But more importantly, when you buy this, you can also subscribe to a website which, using the WSPR data, can tell you a lot more about how your antennas are performing, which enables you to optimize your antenna systems. Whichever option you choose, we have a great debt to the people who run WSPRnet, and there is a PayPal button on their website for donations. I've included some screenshots of the WSPRnet map page in the show notes at icqpodcast.com. Good luck with using the WSPR network, and see both how propagation is and how well your antennas are working. Or not. 73 from Ed, DD5LP.
So in a previous feature episode, we had a wonderful feature talking about the portable multiband dipole, aka the link dipole, which I've tried that once and I liked it. It was very nice to have a ready-to-go antenna. I wanted to share what I'm doing that's a little bit different. I'm actually using the portable end-fed half-wave. This antenna is basically a long wire you put up, half wave in length with a half wave counterpoise, and I've used that for my portable work in the last couple of weeks, and it's been working really well. Basically, the reason why I was looking for that is I wanted a quick portable antenna to match my Elecraft KX3, but something with only one antenna support, so I only had to carry one pole. Like I said a little bit ago, I built the dipole. It works okay, but I definitely wanted something smaller, easier, lighter, quicker to set up. And I read a lot of stuff online talking about the end-fed half-wave, so I thought I'd give it a try since I actually do have the ATU in my KX3. I could have built one, but a lot of people online were sharing how nice the Sotabeam ones were for the price, and so I ordered a Sotabeam's band springer. It's the 60 to 10 meter one. You don't necessarily have to go get one. You can actually build them. But I'm actually glad I did buy it from them because this thing came and it was really nice. And it was really light and really easy to use. So what is an end-fed half-wave? So it's a simple antenna. It's a long aerial wire, roughly a half-wave long, with about the same length as a counterpoise on the ground. It's fed at the very end, so there's no coax to use, aka no coax to carry. However, you really don't see these very often at home use with 100 watts because the high power goes into something that has high voltage, low current, and it's fed at the end with a pretty high impedance. This is a recipe for potential feedback city. However, using the tuner and the low QRP power, it seems to work rather well for rather convenient antenna. So once again, I have the mine set up when I carry it out with single pole. The Sotabeams is a yellow wire with yellow rope on it, so it's really visible. They actually sent it in a nice bag with the stakes you need. So the idea being is that you get the part that goes up in the air. You stake that to the ground near your radio. And the reason you put it in the stake is so that if something happens, like a tree branch falls on it or somebody trips on it by accident, which you got to really be careful about, it doesn't yank your radio off of wherever you have it set up from. The banana plugs that came with it and the BNC adapter is actually nicer than the ones I have in my on my workbench. I actually got to find out where he got some of them because I want to get some of them for testing purposes. And because it's, direct to my radio, it ends up being a faster setup time and gets you on the air a little bit quicker, and which is nice on those, quick little activations you want to do. The simple idea about how you put it up is you, like I said, stake it to the ground near the radio where you want to operate, and you pull out the element that you're going to use as your radiating element, and then you put it up on a post. I'm using a long fishing pole, get about 18 feet, and I put it out there about 2/3 to 3/4 of the wave out, so it gets it up in the air. Higher is always better, but I was just looking at something quickly for portable use. And then you bring it back down, or you can keep it up depending on what you're working with as far as, trees, or if you're out and you just have the pole by itself, you just bring it back down to the ground. And then the counterpoise you just lay out along the ground, roughly about where you're using it. Hook everything up, hit the ATU button on the band you want to operate, and hope it gets a match. So I recently just tried this over the weekend. We were having dinner, and everybody was cleaning up and all this other stuff. So I thought I would go outside with the radio bag and set this up on a picnic table. And very quickly I was able to unspin this thing from the wire holder that comes with, and I had it up in the air in a matter of minutes. I had everything hooked up and was tuning up, and the first thing I noticed was the band conditions were bad. Well, that's pretty much what we expect at this point in the solar cycle. So I went down the lower bands, and I was able to get a match on 60 meters. Didn't hear any activity on the few channels we got. Went to 40, and I was kind of surprised. I was hearing European stations already. Now on this side of the pond, on 40-meter sideband, while it's still daylight out, yes, it was going towards dusk, and yes, we know the D layer drops away pretty quickly, but I was shocked that I was hearing the Czech Republic as loud as I was able to hear it. I didn't actually get a chance to work that station because the kids came out and got me, but just as quickly as I set up, I wound shut all the radio off and started winding up the antenna. The carrier that this antenna goes on, you actually wind it in like a figure 8 pattern, and it's difficult to describe, but you try it once, you immediately know what they're talking about. So that when I unwound it again the next day to do some experimenting with it, it wound it off the thing very quickly and didn't have any kinks or anything in the wire, and it was ready to use very quickly. So overall, I think we're in a really lucky time where we have a lot of options for portable operations. And so as you're deciding what you want to do for portable ops, you do have the multi-band link dipole, which is a great option. And you also have these end-fed half waves, which are also another great option. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I appreciate you considering all this stuff, and get on the air. Thanks.
The ICQ Amateur Ham Radio Podcast, serving the amateur ham radio community fortnightly since 2008.
Well, as we come to the end of podcast 238, interestingly, in July we complete 9 full years of podcasting to the amateur radio community and start our 10th year. Quite looking forward to that. Anyway, don't forget the website. The website's quite important to us, www.icqpodcast.com. That's where you'll find all the news stories, extra information about the news stories on there, and a few news stories that didn't make the group. You can also sign up to Colin's newsletter, which he sends out about once a week and gives you updates on when the shows have been released and any other information that we think is interesting to you at the time. Our Facebook group seems to be growing from strength to strength, and we're really pleased with that. You guys contribute quite nicely in there as well, so if you're not a member of the Facebook group, why not join us? We don't spam you. Same with email, we don't spam you. It's just purely there to assist your enjoyment of this show. Colin and I are also available on LinkedIn and Twitter, as I'm sure most of the other presenters are, so say if you'd like to contact us, there's lots of ways of contacting us, and also we're contactable on the website via a page, or you can email me at info@icqpodcast.com. We had a couple of emails come in, very nice ones actually. John Fuller, WJ0NF, and he writes, "Howdy to everybody at the ICQ podcast from Western Colorado. Just wanted to say how much I enjoy the podcast. Your friendships and enthusiasm for the hobby rub off on me after each podcast, and it helps me keep interest in amateur radio." Well, John, that's exactly why we're trying to do it. Well, John, we're passionate about the hobby, and we're glad you enjoy what we put together in this podcast. And by keeping it advert-free, we actually believe that we give you the best format possible. We also had an email from Dave Parkinson. Call sign is 2I0SJV, and he was introduced to our podcast by one of his fellow members at the club, George GI4SJQ. So fine business, guys, and glad you're on board. And George, thanks for doing that for us. We often grow by word of mouth. Dave said that they're both members of MN0VFW. Now, I should have looked up your club, and I apologise, guys. I should have done that. But nice to have you on board. And Dave is the secretary of that club. He's very pleased to hear that we mentioned them on episode 236, Dummy Loads, in the news stories there. And Dave now tells us he's added us to a link on their website to promote the podcast for us. So once again, Dave, thank you very much for that. Your website is www.muarc.com. That's www.MikeUniformAlphaRomeoCharlie.com for anybody who should look it up. So, and he says, look forward to many more podcasts. Also, I've had a few emails from Dan Romicek, one of our other presenters, and Dan was presenting at Dayton this year. And he let me know that lots of you went up to him and said how much you enjoy his contribution to the podcast. And I must admit we all do as well. So thank you very much for taking the time and telling Dan your thoughts about his contribution to the podcast. That's most appreciative to us to hear that. I'd like to thank the guys for joining me in the round table today. And I had Mr. Leslie Butterfield G0CIB, Mr. Edmund Spicer M0MNG, Mr. Chris Howard M0TCH, and Mr. Martin Rothwell M0SGL. And special thanks to Martin because we had lots of gremlins this episode, and Martin ended up recording it, and we did it in his studio, which is, as I say, better than mine. So no problems there. If you'd like to get involved or contact us, the easiest way of doing is to contact us via the website, which is info@icqpodcast.com. Let us know what you're up to. If, like William, you want to tell us about a feature, we're more than interested to listen to what you're doing. Bearing in mind this podcast is for amateurs by amateurs, not just us presenters all the time. You know, tell us what you're up to. And don't forget the website, as say www.icqpodcast.com, and sign up for Colin's newsletter while you're there. We have a little bit of a YouTube channel, and not a lot happening there at the moment, but for those of you who decide that are brave enough to see what we look like, we're up on YouTube under /ICQ podcast, so you can see what we look like. I say this every episode, but I really do mean this. Thank you very, very much to all our listeners for your downloads. We really, really do appreciate them, and say thank you very, very much. But don't forget, exactly as Dave was told by George, tell your friends at the club. If, it might not be for everybody, but get the word out about us. We could always do with more downloads. We're doing quite well at the moment, but we could always do with more. So thank you very, very much, guys, for each and every one of your downloads there. I'd like to thank the guys for doing a feature for us, Mr. Ed Durrant, DD5LP, for his feature on Whisper. And I'd also like to thank William N3JIX for his feature on small portable antennas that he's been playing with. Very, very interesting, both those features, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Just a reminder once again about the website, www.icqpodcast.com, and as I say, it's where you can find out more information on some of the news stories. Well, the last thing for me to do now is to make that lovely Mrs. B her cup of tea. She'll be in from work shortly, so we'll get the kettle on shortly. I'll make her a cup of tea, get the chocolate biscuits out, and see what I can do for her. So don't forget, guys, we'll do it all again in a fortnight's time. 73 time, 73 time, 73 time, 73 time, 73 time, 73